Okay, I'm going to make a start then. Thank you very much for everyone who's joined us. So the purpose of today's roundtable is to explain the asks of the Global Tuna Alliance of the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission delegations. So begin with just a brief introduction to the Global Tuna Alliance. So we are an independent group of retailers, tuna supply chain companies who have got together to use our collective purchasing power to improve the environmental and social responsibility performance of the tuna fisheries around the world, particularly those that we source from, because they're the ones that we have the leverage. The Global Tuna Alliance has over 40 members now, spread around the world, including Europe and North America, two of the big three tuna markets. As you can see here, there is a good representation from across the supply chain, from retailers, from food service companies, from wholesalers to processors and importers. We have members from beyond North America and Europe. We have South Africa, for example. We have Asia, and we have had a new application today from Papua New Guinea. So our global reach is increasing all the time. In terms of the scale of our purchasing power, this is a representation of the scale of the Global Tuna Alliance partners that was done in late 2020, and it's currently being redone at the moment. The two stats I want to highlight are the fact that Global Tuna Alliance partners bought 1.27 million tons of tuna in 2020. To put that in perspective, that's approximately 1/5 or 20% of the global production of the key commercial species of tuna. And we've estimated that that's worth around $1.3 billion of purchasing power there. So it's a significant amount of tuna goes through Global Tuna Alliance partners. If we focus in on the Indian Ocean, one of the concerns our partners have about tuna in the Indian Ocean is its sustainability. This is a graphic from the US-based Certifications and Ratings Collaboration, which looks at seafood and tries to quantify the level of environmental performance. This is a focus in on the Indian Ocean and the major commercial species of tuna. And you can see on this graph here that there is the vast majority, nearly 65%, are considered red rated by the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch program. About 5% is MSC certified, with a fraction of a percent Fair Trade USA certified as well. There is, you can see, 160,000 metric tons, or about 14% in fishery improvement projects, which are obviously making that journey to improve sustainability. But what this shows us is that there are some serious concerns about the sustainability of tuna in the Indian Ocean. So why is the sustainability of tuna in the Indian Ocean lagging? This is a graphic from the ISSF, the International Seafood Sustainability Foundation. It's an organization that works with the catchers and the producers of tuna, and they do an awful lot of research, and they produce this report every year, and it's incredibly useful. What they do is they use the Marine Stewardship Council, MSC standard, and they run that against stocks of tuna. So not fisheries, but stocks of tuna. And what you can see here is the first of the three principles of the MSC. And this relates to the status of the stock. And I've included all the major tuna stocks of interest to GTA partners in this graphic here. But one of the first things you can see is that the stock status, so that is how the actual, the numbers of tuna, and you can see there's very few numbers of tuna. So the stock statuses are pretty good in almost all of them. One of the things that you can see here is that big band of yellow and reds here. And I've isolated the Indian Ocean. And what you can do is you can see the fact that we're struggling with harvest strategies and harvest control rules for many of the key species of tuna in the Indian Ocean. And you can see that would actually relate to a fail of the stock, not the fisheries, the stock, according to this report. The GTA has annual priorities for all of the 4 tuna RFMOs that we're concerned with. These are our overarching priorities that apply to all 4 of the tuna RFMOs that we deal with. I'm not going to go through these in any detail, but you can see there's some pretty, I would say, well appreciated asks here, such as 100% observer coverage, at-sea transshipment best practices, FAD management best practices. We also have individual priorities for each of the 4 tuna RFMOs, and these are our priorities for the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission in 2022. You can see they are harvest strategies. You can see we're looking for a comprehensive precautionary harvest strategy for big-eyed tuna, and we also want to see measures adopted to prevent the continued exceedance of the harvest control rule, which has been put in place for skipjack tuna. One of our key priorities is yellowfin tuna conservation. We are also asking for 100% observer coverage, human and/or electronic, in industrial tuna fisheries, including all those engaged in at-sea transshipment by 2024. And we're also looking for improvements to the port state measures that are employed by the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission. But we're going to firstly focus on yellowfin. This is a graphic of the spawning stock biomass of yellowfin tuna from 1950 up until 2020. And this is taken from the most recent of the stock status reports for yellowfin, which came out in October last year. And I think it's clear to see that the stock has decreased considerably since the 1950s. Now, that's no surprise because the industrial fishery has developed. Now, a decrease in stock like this is not necessarily cause for concern because you are harvesting it. And if you are harvesting it at an appropriate level, then of course the stock will replenish and keep in balanced. But the stock status also provided far more detail on the actual status of the stocks. This is a table taken directly from the stock assessment, and you can see that the status, that's the big red bar there, 68%. And what that's saying is there's a 68% likelihood that the stock is both overfished and that overfishing is occurring. And that's the worst thing that can be for a fishery. So not only have you taken too much out, but you're continuing to take too much out. One of the other things to note is, and I've just highlighted that in yellow, is that maximum sustainable yield has decreased from just over 400,000 tons to just below 350,000 tons. So it's approximately 349,000 tons. So this considerable drop in maximum sustainable yield is going to have an impact on what needs to happen to rebuild yellowfin. What this is saying is that the maximum sustainable yield that can be taken from the fishery has dropped considerably. This is a bit of a busy table here. It's taken from the stock status report and it's the catch projections. So very simply, what this is saying is if the catch based on 2020 went from a 60% of that level to 120% of that level, so a 40% reduction to an increase, what would the likelihood of the stock rebuilding be? What I've done is I've translated that table on the right to give you a better indication of what the reduction from the 2020 yellowfin catch, give you the proposed catch levels and the probability of the stock being above maximum sustainable yield in 2030, which is approximately 2 generations, and the probability of the fishing mortality, so that's the amount of fishing that's impacting the population, being above the fishing mortality maximum sustainable yield in 2030. So we're only looking at a 20%, a 30%, and a 40% reduction, and that's based on the 60, 70, and 80% of 2020 catch levels. And what you can see here is that the 20% reduction gives you less than a 50% chance of the probability of the stock being above maximum sustainable yield in 2030. And we consider that to be pretty much a coin toss. Do we really want to have that level of cut with such a low 50-50 probability of rebuilding? A 40% reduction would give us a 90% probability of the stock being above maximum sustainable yield in 2030. But that is quite a significant cut, which is going to have considerable impacts on the communities that rely on the fishery. Accordingly, the GTA is calling for a 30% reduction from 2020 catch. And that will give us, you can see, a 67% probability, so 2/3, so 2 in 3 chance of the stock being above maximum sustainable yield in 2030. So essentially, the lower the amount of yellowfin tuna caught compared to 2020, the higher the chance of getting to where we all want to be in 2030. But again, there has to be this balance between recovering the stock, but also continuing fishing efforts to sustain livelihoods and populations in the region. So again, just to reiterate, this is why we're calling for a 30% cut based on 2020, or it may also be referred to as 70% of the 2020 catch. One of the key things that we are concerned about is countries objecting to measures that puts the entire rebuilding plan at risk. And this has happened with the current interim rebuilding plan that was agreed last year, 2101, when we had 6 countries, the ones identified on the slide, who have formally objected. And if they were to catch what they have caught previously, then we would have the second highest level of yellowfin catch, which of course is considerable and is putting the entire rebuilding plan and the stock at risk. So all nations must support a rebuilding plan, or we're just going to fail. There have been very recently, and we only saw these yesterday, 3 yellowfin rebuilding proposals. The EU is proposing that they, because of uncertainties, apparently uncertainties, they propose a subcommission to work during 2022 to prepare a proposal for 2023. And they're proposing that Resolution 2101 will be rolled over into 2023. And so the new measure would apply from 2024. The Seychelles have also made a proposal. Unfortunately, the IOTC website has uploaded the wrong document, so I'm unable to give you any further information on that one. And finally, the Maldives have also made a proposal, and they're proposing a catch reduction at least greater than 20% of 2020 levels to rebuild the stock with a greater than 50% probability by 2030. So they note, I believe, that the 20% cut would only give you in the high 40s%, so they're talking of greater than 20%. And what they also do in their proposal is give you a bit of an indication of where those cuts could be based upon the amount people caught historically. And I've given these here, I'm not intending to run through them, but you can see there's 40% cuts for those CPCs who caught more than 5,000 tons in 2014, or had average catches from 2017 to 2019, inclusive of over 5,000 tons. And there are reductions in cuts for developing states, least developing states, small island developing states. So our proposal to rebuild yellowfin tuna in 2 generations, there's got to be discussions prior to the meeting. There's not enough time to have these in-depth discussions during the 5 days that are scheduled for the IOTC. So we're calling on delegates to discuss with other delegates before you get to the meeting. There's got to be adequate time at the meeting to discuss these proposals. We're very fortunate the IOTC chair is incredibly effective, and we hope that this can continue at the 26th session. There has to be shared responsibility. We really can't see a situation where countries just object to a rebuilding measure and put the entire thing at risk. We are calling for catches to be reduced by 30% to ensure that we have a very good chance of rebuilding it. And once we get this engaged, there needs to be effective harvest strategies to avoid this annual, or pretty much annual horse trading negotiations. So moving on to skipjack, I mentioned that our concern is that each year since the harvest control rule has been established, that the actual rule has been exceeded. And this is not good. This is putting the entire hard work of everyone who was engaged in the adoption of the harvest control rule at risk. Now, this has been recognised, and there have again been 2 proposals. The EU is proposing a reduction there's the 41,000 tonnes that exceeding as of 2020, and they're calling for a reduction by the following amounts of the main catches of skipjack in the region. And I've worked these percentages out based upon the proposed 2023 catches that are in the actual EU proposal. And they note that to limit the socioeconomic impact on the developing coastal states and small island developing states, that they can implement their catch reductions in 2023 and 24. So this is one approach. The Maldives also have a proposal for addressing the exceedance of the harvest control with skipjack. And you can see they are, again, using a similar approach to their previous one, where the based on the levels of catch and the status of the delegation. So that ranges from a 20 to a 1% cut in skipjack catch. So two different approaches there, but both trying to get to the same conclusion. There's 1 month to go, or just under 1 month to go, before the 26th session kicks off. And so it's really important that delegates consider this, review the other proposals, start to have discussions to find common ground before the meeting begins, and then prioritize achieving results for the sake of not only the fisheries, but the communities that they depend on. I'd like to now open up the roundtable to GTA partners. We have Ruth Hoban from New England Seafoods International, who's going to make a statement, followed by Helena Delgado from Tesco. And then we also have a video from Peter Adame from Loose America. So we're also very welcome any other partners who wish to make a statement at this point. So on that, I'm going to hand over to Ruth.
Good morning, Tom. Thank you. Good morning, all. I work as Head of Sustainability at New England Seafood, also known as Nessie. So a bit about Nessie. So we are one of the biggest tuna importers and processors, supplying fresh and frozen tuna steaks to UK retailers and food service customers. So we source from long-term global suppliers. We process fish at our site in the UK and transport it to UK and European customers via customer-owned brands or via Nessie brands as well. So our seafood sourcing strategy really focuses on responsibly sourced tuna. So this can be tuna sourced from fisheries improvement programs or MSC, essentially. So FIPS, moving towards MSC as a target, or MSC tuna. And we've had quite long-standing relationships with our Indian Ocean suppliers. We've been supporting and supplying Indian Ocean tuna for 20 years now. And over this time, we've built really great collaborations with suppliers who've made significant improvements towards FIPS and actually leading some of those FIPS in the Indian Ocean. So we were initially relieved slightly, that's the right word, with the progress made at the last year's IOTC session around the interim yellowfin rebuilding plan being adopted. So for us and for others, I think this indicated a little bit of a move towards rebuilding the yellowfin Indian Ocean tuna stock. But we know that obviously it remains overfished, with overfishing still occurring, has done for 6 years now. And following the most recent stock assessment in October 2021, Tom just alluded to, we know that the rebuilding plan catch limit is now greater than the maximum sustainable yield estimate for Indian Ocean yellowfin tuna. As a result of this, on behalf of Nessie, we're really calling on all of the IOTC member states to once again take action on the upcoming IOTC meeting in May, 1 month time. We believe that this meeting is absolutely crucial for agreeing on the resolution that specifies just how yellowfin Indian Ocean tuna stock can be rebuilt in 2 generations. We recognise the CPCs that have submitted those proposals, as Tom just mentioned, and we encourage the discussion again between member states around these proposals ahead of the meeting next month. And we're really requesting that the IOTC and the delegates gives this discussion around a yellowfin rebuilding plan the time it needs, given the importance of this plan for the communities, for livelihoods, and then for future yellowfin tuna sourcing from the Indian Ocean. And as we have done for the past 20 years, Nessie wants to continue to be buying yellowfin from the Indian Ocean for the next 20 years to come. But to continue doing this, there needs to be considerable improvements on an effective rebuilding plan, which needs to happen at the upcoming session. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Helena, would you like to go next?
Yes, hi. I don't know if you guys can see me. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you, Tom, for the opportunity for speaking. Just making sure you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I'm Elena Delgado Nordman, the Marine Lead and WWF Partnership Manager in the Sustainability team at Tesco. Many of you may know Tesco, some of you may not. We're one of the biggest retailers globally, biggest retailer in the UK. And we understand our responsibility within the role that we play within the environment. And for our marine sources, it's no different. We have strong due diligence processes for our sourcing. Tuna is one of our most important species to our customers, and there's a lot of work that we do in tuna. And in terms of the Indian Ocean, after following the science and concerned with the status of specifically the yellowfin tuna, in September 2020, we got in touch with all the Indian Ocean delegations to ask for a plan for a robust rebuilding yellowfin tuna stock plan. And then at the time, we committed to move away from sourcing any tunid, so not just yellowfin or billfish, from the Indian Ocean if progress was not met at that IOTC meeting that happened in November 2020. As no significant progress was made, we proceeded to move our sourcing away from the area. And as you can imagine, that also brings a lot of complications to a retailer like us. I have been in touch recently, I believe it was either last week or the week before, with all of you, once again, all the delegations, and kind of repeating the message that Tom and Ruth have just said. We see that the Indian Ocean has an incredible potential to achieve seascape, so a holistic, sustainable area governance in a timely manner, and play a leadership role in global sustainable seafood sourcing and managing. Should the IOTC members implement certain measures, which Tom has very clearly and very helpfully gone through, or ask is that in this, that the IOTC are, have this, we've shared a position statement from the GTA that goes into a bit more detail even, and or ask is that you, all of the delegations, if possible, can go through that and discuss it in advance, as Tom mentioned, and ensure that in the next IOTC meeting, we have strong agreements and a helpful way forward for not just the yellowfin tuna, but in other measures as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Helena. So we now have a video from Peter at Loose America.
Hello, my name is Peter Adame. I'm the Director of Communications and Sustainability for Loose America Foods. We're a seafood wholesaler, processor, and distributor based in California, and we service some of America's largest retailers, supermarkets, and food service companies. Yellowfin tuna populations continue to be a concern in the Indian Ocean. I urge our delegates to agree on reducing catch by 30% and adopting a science-based management plan. This would entail harvest strategies with precautionary reference points as well as harvest control rules. I also encourage the group to prioritize observer coverage, especially for ships that are practicing transshipment, as this is not only important for environmental sustainability, but it's a mechanism for reducing the chances of human rights abuses and forced labor. A proper management plan has been put off and delayed for too long. As delegates, you have a crucial role to play, and I'm asking for your help. Yellowfin tuna is one of the top seafood products here in the United States, but even greater, it's a top product globally, making it very important as a resource. Let's do our part to ensure tuna from the Indian Ocean are around for generations to come. It's critical for biodiversity in our ocean, jobs for our neighbors, and food security in our homes. Thank you. Hello, my name's Peter.
So thank you very much to Peter for that great video. Before we wrap it up, I'm just going to give the rest of the GTA partners an opportunity if anyone wants to say anything final. No? Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we wish all the delegations the best of luck going forward. And there are some clear messages from the tuna supply chain here, and we look forward to seeing the outcomes coming. Thank you very much indeed.